Good morning, everybody. Today, my topic of discussion is sensorless PMS and drives for hybrid electric vehicle applications. Basically, why we are going for electric vehicles? That is the first question. And why we are using permanent magnet synchronous motor? Second question. And other thing is why we are going for sensorless control. These are the three topics I'm discussing. There is some. Right, it is first slide right now. Okay. My contents for today's discussion, it is introduction, hybrid electric vehicles, controlling methods, vector control, direct torque control, and the main topic for today's discussion, sensorless control. Is it audible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Why we are going for electric vehicles? That is the first question. I already told you. This is a very hot topic nowadays. You all know the reason. One of the reason, if you see in India point of view, India is the most polluted capital city in world as per the studies 2020. But since last 2 years, due to the pandemic COVID-19, we all know we are not going through all these vehicles, or there is no pollution right now. When we see the latest vertical stats from the year 2019 to 21, in the year 2020, with the help of, or you can take it other way, but the pandemic, even though it is causing more dangerous health issues, but other thing is it is again helping us. Which is why we are concentrating on EVs. This is one of the major reason is global warming. Due to the global warming, people are concentrating on the electrical vehicles because of your diesel engines or petrol engines, which is causing a high pollution. To avoid those pollution, we are concentrating on the EVs. Means one disadvantage of your what you call conventional engines is it is causing pollution. But if you see the technology point of view, or conventional engines or your conventional engines are very old technology. There is much advancements, means since from almost all decades or centuries, there is a tremendous improvement in the technology point of view. Even though there is a improvement in the technology point of view, the problem is global warming or your nitrogen dioxide, all these gases which are emitted from your electric vehicles or your combustion engines. And the second one, we are concentrating on the EVs. As a EVs, basically we are not totally going for electric vehicles. Why we are not going for electric vehicles is, one is not much advancement in the technology, and depending upon the requirement, it will not solve your purpose. Means a fully electric vehicle, your automobile will not solve our purpose. That's why we are going for hybrid electric vehicle, which is a combination of both your EVs as well as combustion engine. That's why we are calling it as a hybrid electric vehicle. The combination, the advantages of your combustion engine as well as the advantages of electrical vehicle, where it is what you call, we are injecting with the electrical power supply as well as your engine, both the combination of EV as well as a conventional combustion engine, which is converted to a hybrid electric vehicle. That is solving our purpose. Here also it is not solving our purpose. Basically, whatever the hybrid electric vehicles we are having, basically they are not plug-in type. All these are a battery operated vehicles. But those engines again, they are again reconverting into plug-in type. With the help of the plug-in types, we can charge anywhere, anytime. Okay, means if you are going for battery operated vehicles, the difficulty is your state of charge. We don't know exactly what is the state of charge of our battery. Means if you are going for long distance, it will be a difficulty. That's why again a remodification of your electric vehicles to hybrid electric vehicles, to hybrid electric vehicles, to plug-in charge vehicles. This thing Means with the advancement of technology, there is basically advancement of technology. Means as a power electronic engineer, basically means your power electronics. The power electronics plays huge role in the hybrid electric vehicles. With the help of the power electronics, with the help of the power converters, what we are doing is we are converting there is a power conversion possibility. This is a slide basically dependence of your what you call oil resources. One of the reasons why we are going for your hybrid vehicles or electric vehicles is one is the exhaust of natural resources. Means there are natural resources and there will be natural resources up to 100 years. Means why only we are concentrating now on hybrid electric vehicles or electrical vehicles? What is the main reason? Actually, your actual electric vehicle which was introduced in the year 1890s, were around 200 years back. There were electric vehicles, but people are not interested at those days or during those days for electric vehicles because there is a easy availability of your source, that is your petrol as well as diesel. But since around 1970s or 1980s, we are concentrating on all these, not only electric vehicles. The other thing is what you call nowadays renewable energy sources. What is the main reason for this one? Means why we are going for renewable energy sources? Whatever the battery operated vehicles, what we are discussing nowadays, again there is a combination of renewable energy source into your electric vehicle. Means whatever means ultimately what we are going means we are diverting from, you can call it as we are diverting from your actual scenario where we are using the sources like your fossil fuels, your diesel engines, petrol engines, but we have gone to renewable energy sources such solar energy, wind energy, and again from the whatever the electrical energy we are generating, that solar energy, wind energy, we are again injecting it to the batteries, and that battery we are converting it to the basically what you call again your electric vehicle. The main reason for this one is basically in the year 1970s, Gulf countries were the major what you call, these are the major countries or the major which is having major share of your diesel as well as petroleum. They have stopped what you call exporting your natural resources, that is your what you call your engine diesel as well as petrol. Then people started thinking for the alternate sources. One is once there is a scarcity of your oil resources, naturally we cannot use your combustion engine. Means we cannot use due to the scarcity, there is a huge increase in the fuel prices. And the other thing is, with the help of those what we are generating the electrical energy, there is a tremendous increase in the cost per unit of your electrical energy. Then people started thinking over other sources. The other sources, one is from automobile point of view, it is hybrid electric vehicles or your electric vehicles. Whereas energy point of view, we all know nowadays we are concentrating the same thing. Basically it is a global problem. All the countries, they have gone for the renewable sources. This is the main reason, one of the main reason. Even though there is a exhaustion of the fossil fuels or exhaustion of your natural resources, what we are having, that is your petrol as well as gas, but we don't have basically problem up to around 50 to 60 years or maybe up to 100 years. But the main reason for going for all these alternate sources, we can call it as an alternate source or alternate energy sources, is the main thing is your Gulf countries. That's why we have gone for there is a huge dependence of your natural sources for protection of or for utilization in automobile industry. If you see this graph, there is nowadays also there is a huge increase. There are different types of, I already discussed, there are Basically, one is fully operated electric vehicle, hybrid electric vehicle, and nowadays there is other technology, fuel cell EVs. You see the differences. Basically, what are the characteristics of your battery operated vehicle, hybrid electric vehicle, and fuel cell electric vehicle? If you see the hybrid electric vehicle, I have already discussed, it is a combination of your motor drive as well as internal combustion engine. Whereas in the battery EVs as well as fuel cell, what do you mean by fuel cell? Fuel cell, basically you will use a oxygen, hydrogen oxygen fuel cell as a what you call resources. Your hydrogen will be main source with the help of when there is a chemical reaction between your hydrogen, that is you will have a both electrodes, positive electrode, anode electrode and cathode electrodes. When there is a chemical reactions between these two electrodes, around 1.11 what you call voltage is induced. With the help of, due to the chemical reaction, there is a electrical energy produced. With the help of that electrical energy will store in the batteries, and with the help of that one, what we are doing is, that is similar to your battery we are using for feeding the battery in the case of your electric vehicle, that is fuel cell electric vehicle. This is the latest technology, but the disadvantage of this is carrying out what you call it as a storage of your hydrogen. Storage of hydrogen is difficult, and that's why means similar to what you call basically fuel cell technology point of view, it is very similar to your what you call solar energy. Whatever that means, electrical point of view, means the fuel cell technology is similar to your solar energy, or means the conversion process is very similar to solar PV. In the case of solar PV, what we are doing, we are converting your sun into solar energy into electrical energy, which is a DC source or a DC voltage. That DC voltage, we are with the conversion process or with the help of the power electronic devices, what we are doing, we are injecting it to the grid, or we are utilizing as a standalone source. Similar to your solar PV, the same in the case of with the help of a what you call chemical reaction, we are generating the electrical energy. That electrical energy, we are a DC voltage, we are injecting it to the, or we are storing in the battery, and we are using for the electric vehicle. That is the difference. But conversion point of view, what your power converter point of view, there is not much difference between your solar PV as well as fuel cell. Just I want to differentiate why we are going for fuel cells. This is the latest technology, and these are the different characteristics. Means ultimately we are storing the electrical energy either in all the cases. And second one is your battery EVs, there is ultimate requirement of charges, whereas in the hybrid EV, as it is a combination, as our name hybrid suggests, we are having both a fuel as well as a charging system. Whereas in the fuel cells, your hydrogen is the main component or the main material which is used for production of electrical energy, and storage of this hydrogen within the vehicle, it is the difficult. That's why there is not much advancement in this technology, but people are working on this one. And the second one is when you're comparing your EVs as well as hybrid EVs as the fuel cells, this is basically your pollution, means emission of your what you call gases, or your emission of pollution, efficiency of your EV, means as it is hybrid one, it is also injecting some gases or pollution into the system when compared to your electric vehicle, or when we are comparing your EV as well as hybrid EV. What is the difference? If your electric vehicle, we are not going for the long distances, whereas here we can go for long distance, as we are supplying or we are injecting fuel as well as electrical energy. The initial cost of all these EVs is high. Basically your hybrid EV, it is, means comparatively it is less. And the technology point of view, nowadays there are many companies of your hybrid electric vehicles. Major issues in the batteries, there is a charging of battery management, state of charge, and your plug-in charges, even though we are having the battery charging stations, but in the countries like, country like in India, where availability of petrol bunks is very huge compared to the availability of your charging stations. But government is planning maybe around 2030-35, they are going for whatever the electric vehicles we are manufacturing must be, all must be your EVs. But if it is like that, means we have to provide the ultimately charging stations. And next one is we have to decrease the cost, even though government is providing the incentives similar to your solar energy as well as wind energy. If you compare earlier days, there is a huge increase in the power production with the help of your solar as well as wind. Similar to those where there are many incentives, they are asking the private firms come into the pictures, and they are private what you call power stations or power generating stations. Similarly, there also they are providing the incentives by not only central government, there are states which are providing the incentives, state-wise, even though similar to what you call nowadays two taxes, where we are having the central GST as well as state GST. The incentives what we are providing, what provided by the government, there are two ways. Central is also providing the incentives. Similarly, state government, they want to encourage the people to go for EVs. Not only they are collecting the money, again they are giving some flexibility to going for your EVs. What are the issues with electric vehicles? One is energy storage, depending upon your distance, we cannot go to around 50 to 60 kilometers. If you want to go for higher distances, then there is a storage problem. Another thing is what we don't know the actual state of charge of the battery. Whatever the research we are having, there are assumptions. Based on the assumptions, there are different what you call methods. Depending upon the assumption only, we are finding the actually what is the state. We are assuming a certain factor X, and we are calculating all the calculations, but there is no actual state of charge. That is a storage issue, SOC issue. And if you are going for more capacity, then your weight, volume, cost will increase. I already told you, initial cost of your EVs is high compared to your internal combustion engine. And charging infrastructure, as of now in India, we are having very less charging stations. These are the major issues with electric vehicles. What will be your actual EV or hybrid EV battery? This is a battery, actual EV battery electric vehicle, where basically we are injecting total your transmission system with the help of the battery. We will have a battery, a motor generator set, and we are injecting the transmission system with the help of the electrical energy. This is the actual EV system, where totally there is only single source or a single supply we are providing. There is no, if you see the hybrid electric vehicles, there are different types of hybrid electric vehicles: mild hybrid electric vehicle, series hybrid electric vehicle, parallel, series parallel, and plug-in. If you see all this, there will be, you will have the two factors. If you see the difference between these two figures, where if you see this part, this one, there is a single source, or a single, for a transmission system, there is only single source. If you compare this one with the hybrid electric vehicle, if you see here, there are two sources. Basically, one is battery, another one is your fuel. What is there? There are, for a transmission system, the input is, there is a fuel input, an internal combustion engine, IC engine, where we are providing either diesel or petrol, and this is your electrical power supply. We are injecting it to the motor. Okay, that is where basically, as it is a mild hybrid vehicle, we are not totally, if you compare the series as well as parallel, what happens is there are two. See the difference between this one as well as this one. Battery is there and fuel engine is there, where we are injecting to the, in this case of, there is a series injection too. But here what we are doing is, there is a battery is an electrical source that is injected to your motor, and the same thing, there is a, basically if there is a any what you call slow, similar to your electric traction or the railway system, what happens, there is a what you call regenerative braking. During the regenerative braking, what we are doing, we are again injecting the power supply to the source. A similar action will be there here. Basically means we are not totally, in the case of a mild hybrid powertrain or a electric vehicle, what we are doing, we are not totally injecting either with the fuel or the battery. Means a small amount of, for certain applications only we are using the electrical power supply. That's why we are calling it as a mild electric or hybrid powertrain. Whereas in the series hybrid train, what we are doing is series as well as parallel. There, if you see, there is a parallelly we are injecting the both fuel as well as battery. Yeah, there is a series injection of battery as well as fuel. That is the difference. Series as well as parallel, similar to your this one. We will have both combination of series as well as parallel engines. That is your fuel as well as your battery operated or battery charging system. We are injecting to the, from the, what you call, if there is a means any slope, then what we are doing is, due to the process of regenerating, what in again we are doing is, we are generating the electrical energy and we are again charging. That is the flexibility in the case of your series as well as parallel hybrid electric vehicles. This is the Nissan Motor Corporation vehicle, where means internal structure of the hybrid electric vehicle, where you will have a power module, power converter, inverter and your motor, and then we are giving it to the transmission system. Motor, these are the main components: the motor, inverter, your drive system, power electronic or power delivery mode. In the, this is a basically reduction drive is your transmission system which operates your gears. Or different companies, battery operated vehicles and types of machines what we are using in the Indian context. Tata Nexon, Hyundai, Morris Garage, Tata Tigor, Mahindra. Basically if you see, either we are using permanent magnet synchronous motor as well as induction motor. The same, if you see the cost of the vehicle, it will be high compared to your conventional automotive vehicle. The main component in the case of a basically your EV or hybrid electric vehicle, it is a your machine, electrical machine. Basically your hybrid electric vehicle is basically a what you call electric drive system. What are the basic components of your electric drive system? What does the electric drive system contains? Basically you will have a, if you draw the basic block diagram of electric drive, in the case of electric drive, what we are having the a power source, power electronic converter, your motor, your load and your control system. This is a basic block diagram of a electric drive. Either it is a traction system or a electric vehicle system. This is a process where this is the your load. Basically what we are doing in an electric drive system, what you will do, we will select the load. We all know we will select the load. Depending upon the load characteristics, what you will do, we will select the motor. Depending upon the motor, we will have the your power electronic converter, inverters, cyclo converter, AC voltage regulator. There are different power electronic converters, but your load plays the huge role. Depending upon the load, what you will do is, depending upon the load characteristics, you will select the motor. Similarly, The same thing with your electric traction also. The same principle what we are doing is, first you know the load. Depending upon the load, what we'll do, we'll select the motor. There are different types of motor. We all know AC type, AC motors as well as DC. In the AC, basically we are concentrating on the AC motors, where we are having the induction motor as well as synchronous motors. Induction motor, there are, means if you discuss the, means if you are going for the, ultimately we have to control the speed of a traction, or speed of a vehicle. In order to control the speed of the machine, what you are doing is, basically earlier it was, speed controlling is basically your what you call variable speed drive. There is not much difficulty controlling the speed when there is a constant speed drive. Means there is a difficulty if it is a variable speed drive. When we are going for the variable speed drive, earlier it was DC motor. Basically it is a separately excited DC motor which is used to control the variable speed drives. But the disadvantage, we all know, due to the maintenance problems and the cost point of view, what we have done, we are gone for AC machines. In the AC, we are gone for induction motor, where the squirrel cage induction motor, which is mostly used. And even now also, what we are doing is, most of the around 70% of industrial drives are your squirrel cage induction motor drives, where with the help of its advantages, that is maintenance free, lower cost, rugged construction, then what we are doing is, we are using the squirrel cage induction motor. When we are comparing the squirrel cage induction motor and synchronous induction motor, what it means, your torque per weight ratio is less in the case of your synchronous motor. In the synchronous motors, where either we can go for your PMSM, permanent magnet synchronous motor, as well as brushless DC motors. These are the two main machines what we are using, that is permanent magnet synchronous motor and BLDC motor. When we are doing the cost analysis, even though the initial cost of these machines is high compared to the synchronous motor, if you see the cost analysis, what happens is, your cost of your synchronous industrial drive, synchronous motor, industrial drive, as well as squirrel cage induction motor, industrial drive, it is both are, means there is not much difference in the case of PMSM as well as squirrel cage induction motor. If you see the running nature up to the maintenance, there will be not much difference in the cost. But even though, if you means, generally people think about the what you call initial cost. There is a high initial cost, but operating cost point of view, your PMSM is equivalent to induction motor. That's why we are going for PMSM motor drives. What are the requirements of a electric vehicle? In the case, means motor requirements for electric vehicles: high torque density and power density, very high speed range. It must be, your speed control must be very high, covering up to low speeds as well as high speeds. As we are discussing the sensorless drives, I will discuss about the high speed as well as basically low speed operations. What is the difference in the, means what are the problems in the case of low speed as well as high speed drives? Efficiency over wide torque and speed ranges, wide constant power operating capability, high torque capability for electric launch as well as hill climbing, high intermittent overload capability for overtaking, high reliability and robustness of vehicle or environment, low acoustic noise, reasonable cost. We know all these things. Basically, whatever the, if you compare the, means as a layman point of view, if you drive a what you call a Maruti vehicle and if you drive a Hyundai vehicle or what you call Skoda vehicle, there is a huge difference in the noise. If you see the difference, means if you are driving a Skoda or a Hyundai, in the inside your vehicle you don't have any noise. But the same thing if you are driving a Swift as well as you are comparing a what you call your I-20, there is a huge difference in the noise. It's the same, it means it is a, I am not discussing about the electric vehicle, it is a conventional vehicle. The same case if you are using a motor, in the case of a electric vehicle, there must be, means ultimately will think your noise must be very low. Means there should not be high noise in the case of your, if you see the what you call e-rickshaw. if there is any what you call hill, then what happens if you are climbing a hill, the noise exerted from your e-rickshaw is very high, and there is a sudden fall in the what you call speed of your rickshaw. Basically, if you see all IITs and NITs, what happens basically within the campus, they are encouraging the e-rickshaws. If there is any hilly area, what happens is there is a huge noise and there is a decrease in the speed. If you are comparing same with a automotive vehicle or a car where we are investing more money, means ultimately we require, means we expect it must be noise free as well as the speed of operation during those points must be very high. These are the basic requirements, or what you call it as a compulsory requirement. Apart from this, even though we are controlling the speed at higher power ranges or higher speeds, ultimately your efficiency should not fall. And same thing is, I already told you, there must be what you call, it must have the what you call regenerative capability. That is the second one. Next one is why we are going for permanent magnet synchronous motor. When we are comparing the electrical motors, we are starting from DC to asynchronous and asynchronous to synchronous motor. Basically earlier it was DC was replaced by asynchronous. Nowadays we are replacing the asynchronous motors with the synchronous motor. What is the advantage of your synchronous motor? One is your torque or power ratio is, or power density is high compared to your induction motor. Even though its initial cost is high, ultimately its operating cost is less compared to your induction motor. Second one is here we are having the permanent magnets in the case of your rotor. Depending upon the alignment of these permanent magnets, when we are discussing about the speed controls, there is a difference in the operation of an induction motor as well as a permanent magnet synchronous motor. Controlling of the speed of an induction motor is very simple. Even though it is speed, but we are not totally using in the EVs, we are not going for the what you call your induction motor. What is the reason? One, it's power density. And even though there is a difficulty in the permanent magnet synchronous motor, what you call, there is a wear and tear of your rotor magnets. Due to the wear and tear of the rotor magnets, there is a difficulty in the what you call operation of a PMSM drive. Even though there is a difficulty, again we are going for the PMSM drive. There you will have the noise point of view. You will get the lower noise in the case of your permanent magnet synchronous motors. And other thing is, in the case of a PMSM, what happens is controlling point of view. We will see, means if it is I already told you, controlling of induction motor is very simple, because if you are doing a small laboratory experiment and you are going for a closed loop speed control, it is very easy, very simple to control the speed of an induction motor. Even though if I am doing 100 volts, even though it is a three-phase induction motor where the power supply is, means actual rated power supply is 400 or 415 volts, but I can start a three-phase induction motor with 100 volts also. My supply is 100 volts, and directly if it is a closed loop speed control, what happens? Whatever the methods we are discussing, either it is a vector control or V-wave control, direct torque control. This is my controlling method, and this is my motor. If it is an induction motor, what I will do? This is a reference speed. This is the what you call actual speed. If it is a actual speed, whatever may be the control technique. Basically, what I will do is I can simply control the speed of this motor. But the same thing in the case of a permanent magnet synchronous motor, where I am using the vector control as well as a DTC. This is my PMSM. This is my reference speed. For suppose this is a simple diagram where this is my actual speed of the motor. Okay. Then first, whereas in this case directly I know the actual speed value with the help of a speed sensor. Okay, then I will directly give it to my reference speed. I will compare this thing accordingly with the help of the different techniques. Every technique is having its own advantage and disadvantage. With the help of different techniques, what I am doing is I am controlling the speed. It is a very simple control. Same thing in the case of a permanent magnet synchronous motor. What I have to do is first, as it is having a, this is a, you see here, these are the two types of permanent magnet synchronous motors. Basically, if it is a BLDC motor, the same thing you will have a, depending upon the power supply, you will have a square wave, sine wave, okay, a trapezoidal wave. Ultimately, it is a basically construction point of view, either it is a BLDC or permanent magnet synchronous motor, even though its operation is difficult, but its construction is similar to your PMSM drive or PMSM motor, where there are two types of PMSM motors. One is surface mounted and second one is internal mounted. Surface mounted is placement of your rotor magnets on the surface of the rotor, where the placement of your rotor magnets internally to your rotor. That is the difference between surface mounted permanent magnet and interior permanent magnets. Okay, mechanical, in this case of a surface mounted, the difference is mechanical strength is weak. Mechanical strength, liquids, what happens if it is there is a weak mechanical strength, what happens, we cannot go for higher speeds. Basically, means safety limits is for the speed limit. Ultimately, it is a speed limit. Whereas in this case, it is inserted inside your rotor structure. What happens is they are very strong. Placement of your rotor bars is rotor permanent magnets is very strong. When there is strong placement, then what happens? You will have a lesser noise and you can go for higher speeds. That is the two permanent magnet synchronous motor. One is surface mounted and second one is interior permanent magnet. This is the internal structure of your permanent magnet synchronous motor. Your rotor magnets, steel plates, rotor hub, stator structure. This is the internal structure of a permanent magnet synchronous motor. Basically, means I have diverted from this one. Basically, what we are doing is, as we are having a rotor structure, two types of rotor structure, surface mounted as well as interior permanent magnet. Basically, what is happening is, ultimately, in order to control the speed of the motor, that is my permanent magnet synchronous motor, what I have to do? I have to know the rotor position. I have to know the rotor position. If I don't know the position of the rotor, I cannot find out the actual speed at which my machine is rotating. According to the position of the rotor, with the help of the position of rotor, we are placing the position sensor. With the help of the position sensor, I will find out the rotor position. According to that position, rotor position, I will find my actual speed of the drive. Means basically, when we are physically controlling the speed of a drive, first, in the case of an induction motor, what you will do is you will directly switch on the power supply. Okay, means we can directly switch on the power supply, and you could, with the help of the different digital controllers, either it may be your DSpace, DSP, FPGA, RTLab, whatever it is. What you are doing is we are controlling the speed of the drive or the speed of the motor. Whereas in the case of a permanent magnet synchronous motor, directly we are not switching on the power supply. Means first, what you know, you have to know with the help of your rotor structure, what you will do, you will find the rotor position. According to the rotor position, we will find out the rotor speed. Then according to the rotor speed, we will control the speed of the drive. There is the difficulty, means that is the actual difference between your conventional induction motor drive. That is why it is used everywhere. But owing to the advantages of your permanent magnet synchronous motors, means in certain applications, you have to go for the permanent magnet synchronous motors. In the case of your EVs, any controlling, what you know, ultimately, this is the actual machine. Any machine, what you will do, if it is, this is a physical machine, but how we are manufacturing this machine? Basically, if you are going for any simulation or if you are going for the what you call experimental point of view, you will find a physical machine. Physical machine is that is the whatever the machine we are having in the laboratory. If you see these all these plates or all these internal structure, basically what happens is any machine will have your stator windings, rotor windings. This stator winding will have the stator resistance, rotor resistance, whereas in the case of a permanent magnet synchronous motor, basically all these depends upon the inductance, your LD and LQ, D axis inductance component as well as the Q axis component. Means if you have to control the speed of the drive, ultimately you have to know the mathematical modeling, what is actually happening inside the machines, what are the different machine equations. If you know the different machine equations, then according based on those machine equations, what you will do, you will calculate the, or you know, basically based on those equations, we'll take out the equations to control the speed. All the methods what we are going to discuss basically is mainly dependent upon the what you call internal structure of the machine. This internal structure of the machine is basically a mathematical, it will have the mathematical equations. You will have different softwares, your Maxwell solvents. Basically before going for the actual physical machines, you can simulate your what you call, depending upon the rating of the machine, will simulate in the software, and accordingly based on those mathematical equations, what you will simulate in the software. If you see the any MATLAB simulation, what happens, you will have a already existing in the go. If you go to the power system block, sim power system block, what happens, you will have a separate electrical machines, where you can find asynchronous machine, synchronous machine, BLDC machine. The same machine, what you can do is, if you don't want to use that machine, what you will do, you have to simulate your own motor, or you have to simulate your own generator. Means how you are simulating is based on the machine equations, or based on these equations, that is, if you know the mathematical modeling of the machine, based on those mathematical equations, what you will do, you will simulate the, or either you can go for your programming, where you can go for M-file and you will write the equations. With the help of those things, we can simulate a motor, or directly we can go for the already existing machine, which is in the MATLAB. But it is very useful if you know the actual mathematical equations of the machine. This is the equation of a PM, what you call your diagram of a drive system, or your machine your PMSM. Basically, where we are, what we are doing is, we are providing the power. This is the what you call equivalent circuit, D axis as well as Q axis. Basically, you will have a VDS is equal to, means if you are write a VDS is equal to VPS, you will have a equation like this. If it is RSP into LS. Like this, you will have a I go for 3-phase reference frame, you will have a VD0 or zero axis component. Similarly, you will have a zero axis current component. Basically, if you do the mathematical analysis, based on those mathematical analysis, what we are doing is, we are drawing the equivalent circuit of an PMSM motor. Based on these mathematical equations only, we are going for the what you call your controlling. Basically, I already told you, any drive or EV, ultimately it is a drive system. A drive contains, I already drawn the block diagram where you will have the power source, you will have a power electronic converter. Basically, you will have a motor, your load, and your control system. Basically, the same thing is happening in the case of your EV also, where we are using either your inverter as well as the converter. Means we are going for multi-level inverters and converters, or your DC-DC converter, depending upon the requirements. This is a 2-level inverter where we are using the 6 switches. You know the operation of a inverter. We are giving it to the PMSM motor. In the case, what you are doing means you will have a 135462 with the help of your sinusoidal PWM, SPWM or SVPWM. We will see. What we are doing is we are controlling the we are providing the gate pulses. Ultimately, this require a gate pulse where we are taking a sine wave, a triangular wave. We are comparing. We are providing the gate pulse. This is your sinusoidal PWM, but basically we are not discussing in detail. What we are doing is for reducing the or harmonic, for going for pure sinusoidal wave, where in the case of a two level inverter you don't have a pure sinusoidal output voltage. That's why we are to reduce the burden on the switches, we are going for the multi-level inverters. The advantage is lower output, means higher output voltages, lower discharge, and high means lower dV by dt on the switches, means. And next one is lower switching frequency and smaller common mode voltages. There are three types of multi-level inverters where we are going for diode clamped, flying capacitor, and cascaded. This is a 3-level diode clamped inverter. Earlier it was 6 switches. If you see here, you will have a 12 switches, 4 plus 4 plus 4. Where depending upon the earlier it was VDC, either it may be minus VDC or 0. Now VDC 0 minus VDC, where your output voltage will have the 3 levels. Output either it is VDC, minus VDC, and 0. Depending upon this operation of the switches, either you will have VDC, minus VDC, and 0. This is a diode clamped inverter, where application of your diode clamped inverter. In the case of a diode clamped inverter, what we are doing is you will have the more number of, we are clamping the diodes. You see, these are the 2 diodes. Where we are clamping all the diodes. If it is a flying capacitor types, what we are doing is you will have the more number of capacitors. Basically, this is a flying capacitor type, which is a 5-level type, where you see 8, let's say this is a single phase, like 8 into 3, you will have a 24 switches. It is a 5-level type. Okay, where depending upon these switches S1, S2, S3, where you will have a, earlier it was the diodes. We are clamping the diodes, where if you see disadvantages, more number of diodes are required. Power flow is difficult. The advantages is you will have the lower harmonics, and you can operate your switches in the at the fundamental switching frequency. The difference is here, what you are doing earlier, it was the your more number of diodes. Here you are using the capacitor. If you are using the capacitor, your capacitors is bulky. But the advantage of using your capacitors is, earlier there is only what you call controlling for the providing the gate pulses. There is no, or there are a single configuration or the single switch configuration, where to provide the, if it is a 3-level, where what you are doing VDC, minus VDC, 0. In order to obtain this voltage, your S1, S3, S1, S4, S1 and S2. Like this, you will have the switch node exactly. You will have this switch combinations. Whereas in the case of with the help of these capacitors, what happens is you will have if you see this connection, to obtain the same voltage VDC, we will have 3 to 4 redundancies. Means according to our requirement, in the control structure, what we'll do, we can use any of these switching or switching combinations. So that in the case of a flying capacitor, multi-layer inverter, you will have a redundant switching states. Switching states which helps in or simple control of your or switch obtaining a simple gate pulses. That is the advantage of your flying capacitor. Disadvantage is, as the number of levels increases, what happens? Your capacitors, number of capacitors increases. As the number of capacitors increases, what happens? Your system will become more bulky. Okay, These are the advantages as well as disadvantages of your flying capacitor type. Next one is a simple structure where basically mostly used one cascaded H bridge. What you are doing is you are taking a half wave rectifier, or you can off single phase half wave inverter, where you are using the means 4 pulses. Means designing of this kind of inverter is very simple. What happens is, if you want to design a cascaded H bridge inverter, you will have a single PCB structure. Based on that single PCB structure, what you will do, we will obtain the replica. Depending upon the, as we go on increasing the number of levels, what you just, we are increasing the PCB structure. And if you see earlier, when we are comparing with your flying capacitor type as well as your diode clamp type, there are no auxiliary components. Either you don't have the more number of capacitors as well as diodes. That is the advantage. The only disadvantage is, if you see this one, there is a separate DC source. If you are using same diode clamp, your cascaded H bridge inverter, in the case of a what you call your solar PV or your fuel cells, it is very useful. What you are doing is, even though control is somewhat difficult, but every solar PV, what means that will provide you the DC source. Basically, we are using in the renewable sources where you are having the separate DC sources. Okay, that is basically a what you call requirement of separate DC sources is a disadvantage of your your cascaded H bridge type. But with the, when we are using in the solar PV, it is very advantageous. These are the comparison where ultimately what we are doing is, I already told you, if you are going for diode clamped multi-level inverters, you will have the more number of switches, that is more number of diodes. In the case of a flying capacitor type, you will have the more number of capacitors, whereas in the case of a, you see the switches. In the case of a switches and anti-pile dialects, for all these things it is same, but the auxiliary equipment what we are using, or auxiliary components what we are using, it is used difference. The simpler one is the cascaded H bridge type, but mostly basically we will use diode clamped multi-level inverter due to its simple structure or simple control. Next one is how we are controlling or how we are obtaining the gate pulses to these switches. There are different techniques. Basically, mostly used is your sinusoidal PWM and space vector modulation. Sinusoidal, I already discussed. We are taking a sinusoidal wave, 3 sinusoidal wave. If I want to provide a gate pulse to the 2-level inverter, a 3-phase 2-level inverter, you will have the, for every phase leg, you will have a sinusoidal wave A, B, C, sin omega t minus 120, sin omega t plus 120. You will have a 3 reference wave. For those reference wave, what you will do? I will take the carrier wave. This is 1, 2, 3. Everywhere you will have a carrier wave. I will compare and obtain the gate pulse. This is your sinusoidal pulse width modulation. Similarly, but that is similar to your sinusoidal pulse width modulation. What will do? The output voltage what we are obtaining is less. In the case of a sinusoidal space vector PWM, we will have a 15% more output voltages. Your space vector is nothing but what you are doing is whatever you see the same voltages, reference voltage VA, VB, VC. I think this has been discussed by Dr. Ramesh. I am not going into detail, just I will go very fastly. Means you will have a sinusoidal reference wave. These reference wave, what we are doing is VA, VB, VC, we are converting into V alpha and V beta. V alpha plus V beta, J into V beta. Then what I will do, I will get the V magnitude theta, V alpha square plus V beta square. Okay, tan inverse of V beta by V alpha. You will get basically this is a 2-level inverter, different switching combination, same thing what the 135, 462. Active states and 0 states. Active states are these 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the null states, or you can call it as a 0 states. This is a switching combination or for every switching state. You see where This is zero vector where all the lower switches are on, whereas this zero vector where upper switches are on. At a time, 2 switches, 3 switches is on, 1, 2, 3. We are depending upon the switching states. I am not discussing in detail. Basically, whatever the V alpha, what you call V magnitude and V theta. This is the a space vector. You call it as a space vector. What you call the rotation or the variation of this reference vector within the hexagon. If you see this one, this is a hexagon, but if you see the variation, what happens? It is following a circular path where you will have the 6 triangles. 2 triangle 1 to 6. Depending upon this theta as well as reference angle, what happens? What are the VA, VB, VC? What we are doing? VA, VB, VC. We are calculating V alpha, V beta, V alpha to V beta to V magnitude or V reference vector. Okay, you got this one, and you will have the theta. Depending upon these vectors, what you will select this triangle. You will calculate the sector. According to the sectors, we will calculate the switching states. Like this, V0 2 by 3, 5 by 3 means you will have a 180 degrees. Total 360 degrees. 360 divided by 60, you will get the 6 triangles. So sector 1, sector 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I already told you SVM, sinusoidal PWM, there is a difference in the output voltage. 15% more output voltage we are obtaining. How you are calculating the switching pulses? Computation of reference angle, that is from the reference voltages I am obtaining the reference angle. Once I am obtaining the reference point V reference, then what I will do is I will calculate this sector, identification of the sector. Once you got the sector, then what I will do, I will take the duty cycle. From the duty cycle, I will find the modulation function. Then I will get the switching pulses. The same methods. I got the reference vector, duty cycle calculation, modulation index, switching function, and this is the switching logic. This has been already discussed. 6, depending upon the theta, we will identify the sector 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 based on this one. We will get the dwell time calculations, D alpha. You see reference voltage from 0 to T1, T1 to T2. This is the actual sampling time TS. We are dividing the total time TS into 0 to T1, T1 to T2, T2 to TS. We are calculating the dwell times. Then I will calculate the time instance T1, T2 and T0. Okay, T1, T2 and T2. Once I got this, and then I will calculate my actual gate pulses. These are the switching instance. These are the gate pulses. Okay. At different sectors. If it is at sector 1, your VA, VB, VC. If it is in sector 2, like this, we are calculating your switching instance or your gate pulses. This is basically whatever we have discussed. This is for the 2 level. You will have a complicated structure when we are going for a 3 level, where you will have the more number of what you call triangles, more number. Earlier it was only 8 switching states, out of which 2 0 as well as 6 active vectors. Here we are having 27, 125, 343. Like this, we will have a space vectors, number of triangles. Earlier it was, if you see this one, earlier it was only 6 triangles. You see this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Basically you will have, I think, 24 triangles. Like this, you will have a complicated structure. Like this, what you are doing is I am providing the basically a what you call a gate pulse to a inverter. First, what we have done, we have gone for the basically machine. Second one is we have gone for the inverter, power electronic converter. Next one we are gone for the control system, and ultimately how you are controlling the speed of a drive or a speed of a transaction system. Means you will have a different methods basically to control the speed of a PMSM motor. We have control, vector control, a new control based latest technologies where basically we are discussing field oriented control, that is your vector control, and direct over control. Once we are going for the field oriented control, next what we will do is, in the case of all these methods, ultimately you require the position of a rotor. Means what you do, you need a speed sensor. You need the speed sensor. What you will do is, I will eliminate the speed sensor. Means I don't want to use the speed sensor. I want to decrease the cost of a vehicle, or I want to decrease the cost of a drive where I am not using a sensor. Based on the machine equations, what I will do is I will calculate the speed. I will calculate the speed. Okay. Main method is vector control. In the case of a vector control, basically vector control is a combination or which is obtained from a separately excited DC motor speed control. Where in the case of a separately excited DC motor, what happens is, this is a separately excited means a DC motor where what I am doing is, in the case of a separately excited DC motor, what happens, you will have a field component phi into Ia. A field component as well as armature current components. Means if I am controlling this one, this will not be affected. If I am changing this one, this will not be affected. There is a natural decoupling between your field as well as flux, field flux as well as armature flux. Natural decoupling between these two components. Always these are 90 degrees apart. Okay. The same principle we are using. What I am doing is, here it was a natural process in the case of a DC motor, whereas in the case of a PMSM drive as well as induction motor drive, we are artificially maintaining this angle theta. We call it as a field angle. We call theta f is a field angle. Depending upon how you are obtaining this field angle, you will have two types of vector controls. One is direct vector control and second one is indirect vector control. In the case of a direct vector control, your theta f is obtained, how you are obtaining from the voltage and flux and current. Whereas in the case of a indirect vector control, your theta f is obtained from the slip speed. Okay, vector control, depending upon theta f, you are having direct as well as DVC as well as IVC, direct vector control, indirect vector control. In the case of a direct vector control, you will use voltages and currents of your machine and then you will calculate the theta f. Whereas in this case, we will use the slip speed and we will calculate the theta f. That is the difference between your vector control as well as direct as well as indirect vector control. How we are maintaining this one? Ultimately, we are artificially obtaining this one. Artificially, we are obtaining this theta f, but you have to maintain this one. How you are maintaining? Basically, whatever the classification, what we are seeing is how you are obtaining this theta f and how you are maintaining this one. One is rotor flux based on the stator flux, and you can use stator voltage Vs. Means by using these components, what you will do is I will maintain this angle theta. Ultimately, I will take it as a reference, lambda r, what you call it as a lambda r as a reference, and I will use lambda s as a reference, I will use Vs as a reference, and ultimately I control the speed of a motor. Either it is a PMSM drive as well as your induction motor drive. 1 minute. Actually, this is what means what we are doing in the case of a vector control. I already told you how to decoupling and you are maintaining your theta f. In order to maintaining theta f, what I am doing is I am maintaining rotor, means taking rotor flux as a reference. If I am taking the rotor flux as a reference in the case of a induction motor, either it is a induction generator, either it is a permanent magnet synchronous motor, either it is a permanent magnet synchronous generator, whatever it is, whatever may be the drive. In my sense, the drive is a motor system where ultimately I have to, either it is a wind energy system or any system, means ultimately I have to control the speed. What I have to do? I have to control the speed. In order to control the speed, what I am doing is, in the case of a vector control, what I am doing is, I am taking a stator current component and splitting this stator current component into IDS and IQS. This IDS as well as IQS. This is very similar to your DC motor, where one is flux and one is armature. This will control the flux and this will control the torque component. One controls the torque component, I into IA. Same method, where here what we are doing, we are taking the stator current component and splitting into two accord, basically IDS, IQS. Okay, this is theta. Yes, this theta F is obtained. Lambda. This is a simple diagram. Basically, what I am doing is, I am taking a, you see, this is a field component. IF is a field or flux. IQS is a torque component of current, similar to your DC motor. And splitting the stator current similarly. This is a stator current component, IQS and IDS. One is a Q components. Basically, this figure is very simple. Actually, what is happening is, basically when we are discussing the mathematical modeling, what it means, there are certain reference frames. You all know, one is rotor reference frame, stator reference frame, or stationary reference frame and synchronous reference frame. Depending upon your reference frames, means what I will do is, I take this as a reference and I will, what I will do, I will analyze the machine. Once I will analyze the machine, means I will mathematically model the machine. Once I will mathematically modeling the machines, ultimately in order to control the speed of a machine, what I will do, ultimately I have to use that your component. That's why this is a IQS, this is a synchronous reference frame. One is stationary reference frame, one is rotor reference frame. Ultimately, this is the stator current component. I'm taking the stator current component, this one, and splitting the stator current component into IQS as well as IDS. Got it? You see, this one is a D-axis component and this one 90 degrees, which is 90 degrees to your, this one, it is a Q-axis component. Got the point? One is this is reference to your lambda r, that is rotor flux. One is 90 degrees to your lambda r. This may be opposite, means whatever the we are taking, either you can take theta, means this one ID as reference or IQ as reference. Okay, like this, what I am doing is, I am taking the stator current component and splitting that stator current component into two components. One is quadrature axis component and second one is direct axis component. Okay, from the direct axis component as well as quadrature axis component, I will control the torque as well as flux. Ultimately, this torque and flux controls the speed of the motor. This is theta f. You see, theta f is equal to, in the case of, I am obtaining slip speed as well as rotor speed. Slip speed, in the case of indirect vector control, I am controlling the speed with the help of the slip speed, that is theta SL plus theta R, where theta S is equal to theta F plus theta T. These are the this is the basic block diagram of a indirect vector control, where what I am doing is reference speed, actual speed from the PMSM drive. I am using the speed sensor, a speed controller as well as a flux controller. I am transforming, okay, speed component as well as flux control. One controls the torque and one controls the q-axis components controls the torque, and the axis component controls the flux. Flux controller, speed controller. Basically, it is internally you will have a torque controller. Okay, I am transferring dq into quadrature components into stationary components. I got A, B, VA, VB, VC. Once I got VA, VB, VC, what I will do? Basically, VA, VB, VC. I got these values, the same space vector modulation, whatever we have discussed. This value, ये जो हमने देखा था ना, this one. These are basically VA, VB, VC. Means if it is a closed loop speed control, if it is open loop, a space vector modulation is very simple. If it is a closed loop, ultimately it depends upon the speed. Right? You got the point? Means from this you will get the VA, VB. That's why you call it as a closed loop speed control, where the position sensor requirement is very difficult. Obtaining the position of the sensor is difficult. From this we got the VA, VB, VC. Either I can go for sinusoidal PWM or space vector modulation. Then I will provide these gate pulses to my inverter. Either it may be 2-level inverter, 3-level inverter, whatever it is. Okay. Means if it is a 3-level inverter, it is a complicated sinusoidal PWM structure. As well as space vector modulation. Ultimately, depending upon the number of switches and number of mode of your PWM method, you will obtain the gate pulses. How you are obtaining this one is basically here what we are doing is I am sensing the speed. This is my actual speed. Okay, for suppose my reference speed is 1500 RPM. Okay, my actual speed may be 1400 RPM. I'll have a error of 100 RPM. That error, what I am doing is I am providing it to the speed controller. From the PI controller, I am obtaining the stator current component, and as well as basically it is a current regulated inverter. If I am going for voltage regulator, you can have means IQS, IDS. Again, I will convert it into again I will use a PI controller here. Okay, and then get VDS, VQS. This is VQS and this is VDS. Then that will I will convert it into DQ and alpha beta, from alpha beta to ABC. Okay, that is voltage regulated. Means current source inverter, current regulated inverter as well as voltage regulated inverter. Okay, means this is a FOC PMSF, what you call your vector control, where this is my reference speed 1000 RPM, 1200 RPM and 1500 RPM. Okay, this is the reference speed, actual speed, estimated speed. If it is this is the current, stator current, and this is the torque, depending on load change, depending upon the load change. If it is a EV, basically ultimately what happens is your load changes depend upon your acceleration. Okay, means depending upon your road structure, what happens is depending upon what you call, one is your torque changes, nothing but your torque changes. In the case of a EV, what happens depending upon your structure of the load, what happens ultimately, if you are climbing the hill, what happens ultimately, you are pressing your accelerator more. Once you are pressing your accelerator more, what happens, your torque is, means you are pressing your pedal, what you call, fastly, or you are increasing the, ultimately this, what you are doing is you are increasing the torque. And if you want to, you are going on the plain load, ultimately what I have to do is I have to overtake a vehicle. Then ultimately what I am doing, so I am increasing the speed. Ultimately either you can control the torque as well as control the speed by using this control method, vector control method. This is a sensored speed control method. What is the next one is we are going for the sensorless speed control. Sensorless speed control is nothing but what I am doing is whatever the position sensor we are using or the whatever the speed sensor using, what we are doing is we are eliminating this one. I don't want to use this speed sensor. If I don't want to use, means why I don't want to use, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. The disadvantage of the speed sensor is, first one is we cannot place the sensors everywhere. Means there are some applications where placement of the sensor, ultimately you will place your sensor to the rotor shaft. I will place my sensor to the rotor shaft. If I am placing my sensor to the rotor shaft, what happens is placement of this sensor at the submarines, or means if you are basically in the petroleum extraction, what happens is we'll have the motor where what happens is your placement of sensors is difficult. Again, going inside the machine, and if it is a small machine, you don't have any problem. But if your size of the machine is high, and if it is a naval application or what you call dangerous places where placement of sensors is difficult, at those applications, what you will do is I cannot place my sensor. That is, and second one is ultimately your sensor will cost something. In order to reduce the economics or in order to reduce the cost of the system, what I will do is I will go for sensorless method, and reliability of your sensors is means less. That's why we are going for sensorless methods. Limitations of sensors are placement is difficult, lower reliable, and operation at hazardous places is difficult. That's why limitations of sensors is difficult. And second one is, I already told you, in the case of a PMSM drive, in order to control the speed of the machine, what we'll do, we have to know the position of the rotor. In that case, sensing the position of the rotor is difficult. Means if there is a faulty, or if you are not sensing the position of the rotor correctly, your machine will not start at all. In the case of a PMSM drive. What are the different sensorless techniques? Basically, there are two main classifications we call spectral analysis and fundamental analysis. Spectral analysis, basically, in my sense, I will call it is basically these are the injection methods. We call it as a injection method. Injection method is what we are injecting. Means we are either we can inject rotor saliency, we will inject the frequency, and you will inject the rotor slot harmonics. Basically, we are injecting something. Based on those injections, we will calculate the speed. Okay. Next one is fundamental analysis. Fundamental analysis, very simple, where by using the machine equations. By using this is a machine, that is, I am having a permanent magnet synchronous motor. I am having an induction motor. If having a motor, I already told you, when we are mathematically modeling, is what we are doing is, we are writing the mathematical equations. With the help of those mathematical equations, excuse me, with the help of those mathematical equations, what happens? We'll write from those mathematical equations, we'll write the speed equation. In that one, means fundamental in the sense, what we are doing is, we'll take a physical machine. In the case of a experimental, what we'll do, from the machine only we are calculating the speed. From the machine equations, in the simple sense, you call it as a, we are taking the machine. From the machine equations, you know the mathematical equations of the machine. From the mathematical equations of the machine, by using different methods, either it may be your Kalman filter, extended Kalman filter, Leonberg observer, extended Leonberg observer, sliding mode observer, or these are the different observers. And next one is model reference to adaptive system, where other one is, you can go, in the case of artificial intelligence, you can use artificial neural network, ANN, ANFIS, you can use genetic algorithms, fuzzy logic controllers, all these, and you can have a combination of all these. Means you can use sliding mode controller as well as fuzzy logic. Like this, we'll use a machine equation. From the machine equations only, we'll calculate the speed. From the machine equations only, we'll calculate the whatever the, if you see this one, You see, it means here it is only in the case of a closed loop speed control with the sensor. We are only using the basically a flux arbor, or basically whatever the speed we are using, whatever the speed we are obtaining, this will be omega r cap. You call it as this cap. This is the estimated speed. This estimated speed, here you don't have a speed sensor, you don't have this one. Ultimately, whatever the current and voltage measurements, you see the same thing we are taking. One is you are obtaining the flux, and the same thing you will have a flux observer, and which will give you the speed. We'll see. You got the point here. There are different sensorless techniques, that is we have already discussed. Basically means what I am discussing is, I am discussing about the model reference adaptive system. Model reference adaptive system when compared to all these methods. This one, observers, it is very simple, means computation or the mathematical calculations involved in this model reference adaptive systems are less compared to your observers as well as sliding mode controller. Model reference adaptive system, as the name indicates, you see, you will have a reference model. A model reference adaptive system contains a reference model, adaptive model, and adaptive mechanism. This reference model, in the simple sense, this is your machine. This is your a motor or a generator. Means you will have a actual machine equations. Okay. Then you will have an adaptive model. This is actual value, and from the adaptive model, or you call it as a estimated model. Estimated model, adaptive model or estimated, or you can call as a reference model, adaptive model one name, and you can call a voltage model and current model. Okay, voltage model and current model, where in this case only we are using the currents. Here we are using the both combination of voltages and currents. We will see next the next slides. That's why you call it as a voltage model, and here it is a current model. Ultimately, what happens is you are getting actual value and estimated value. When we are taking actual value and estimated value, what you will doing is you will get an error value here based on this epsilon. Basically, you call it as a epsilon omega, as when we are using for a speed observer. You call it as a epsilon omega. You call it as a speed error or speed tuning signal. Means from the actual value as well as estimated value, you will compare these things and you will get a error value. You call it as a speed tuning error, based on how you are obtaining this omega, epsilon omega. This is a what you call ideal structure, but based on how you are obtaining this one. Okay, this one. There are 4 types. One is rotor flux based MRS, back EMF based MRS, reactive power based, and stator current or rotor current based MRS. Okay, I already told you, one is reference model or voltage model, adaptive model or estimated model or current model. Means here you will get only estimated values. You get only estimated values. Then what I am doing is, basically this is the machine model. This is my actual, either it is an induction machine or a synchronous machine or induction motor or a synchronous induction generator or a synchronous generator. Okay, means I can use in the case of a generation as well as in the case of a motor. Everywhere you can reduce the sensor and you can obtain the actual speed of the machine. You can obtain the actual speed of the machine, where depending upon this epsilon omega, if I am obtaining from the fluxes, that's why you call it as a rotor flux. You can have stator flux also, that is psi RD, psi RQ. This is the actual flux and this is the estimated flux. It will be like this: psi RD, psi RQ estimated value minus psi RQ, psi RD, means this is error value is equal to epsilon omega. Okay, this is obtained from the One is from the machine and another one is your estimated value. Means ultimately in order to obtain this one, what we are doing is we are using the voltages and currents. If you see this diagram, here what we are doing is ultimately, even though it is a flux, or it is a speed, what I am doing is I am measuring or I am sensing. Means measurement is nothing but I am using the voltage sensor as well as a current sensor. Here also we can reduce these values, or I can reduce the sensors. How I am reducing, I will explain in the later. But what I am doing, ultimately what we are doing is by sensing the voltages and currents from the machine equations, what I am doing is I am obtaining the stator flux or I am obtaining the rotor flux. Depending upon this epsilon omega, here in this case it is this epsilon omega is based on the rotor flux. That's why you will call it as a rotor flux based MRS. In the next one, what happens if I am obtaining this from the Q in the sense it is reactive power. If I am obtaining the epsilon omega with the help of the reactive power, I will call it as a reactive power based MRS. If I am obtaining this with the help of the back EMF EB, then I call it as a back EMF based epsilon omega. This is EB. You call it as a EB. That is D axis, Q axis. Okay. This is ultimately, this is how you are obtaining. The classification is basically this is based on the speed tuning signal. Okay, either it may be reactive power based, back EMF based, and rotor flux based. Okay, every method has its own advantages and disadvantages. I have gone for the rotor flux based observer because its computation is simple compared to and all these methods. Either it is back EMF. Here what happens is, in the case of a reactive power based MRS, the disadvantage is basically when we are going for the regenerative braking. Ultimately, if I am going for a EV, ultimately, if you see the block diagram, there is a when I am climbing, if there is a climbing, means I am coming from the slope of a hill, what happens, as it is a case of a traction, what happens, you are injecting the power to the source. If it is a reactive power based source or reactive power based MRS, what happens, you will have a stability issues. That's why I'm not going for the reactive power based MRS. In the back EMF based MRS, what happens is, here what happens is there is no stability issues, but if you are going for the higher speeds, then you will have a stability issues. Whereas the rotor flux based MRS, what happens is, at a lower speed, I am having the issue. At the lower speeds, I am having the issue. See, what are the issues? We'll see in the next slides. Means at the lower speeds, I am having the issue, but at the higher speeds, I don't have any problem controlling the or obtaining the speed observer. Okay. And next one is rotor current based or stator current. Basically, if it is a stator current based, meant is IS, then I will use for my motor. If it is a rotor current based, then I will go for generator. Okay. Generator, that is your induction generator as well as synchronous generator. If I am using the rotor current as a reference, it is, in the case of a generator, if it is a stator current, I can call it as a generator, motor. Okay, the same thing here also, we are obtaining the epsilon omega with the help of, you see, rotor current, stator current, conventional rotor current based MRS. If it is a stator current, only we are having the stator currents. I am taking means your VS. This is IS, I alpha, IS alpha, IS beta. Okay, we are taking the, you see, stator current. From the stator current, you will obtain the epsilon omega. Okay, not from the flux as well as your reactive power or back EMF. This is, means depending upon how you are obtaining, you have the equations. Depending upon how you are obtaining this epsilon omega, you will have the type of model reference to adaptive system. There is a combination of what you call means sliding mode control. Sliding mode control is one of the speed estimation method. Means the hybrid method where means we are using the sliding mode controller and rotor flux based MRS, and you are obtaining means for better performance, what I'm doing is ultimately I'm combining this one, sliding mode observer as well as rotor flux MRIs, and obtaining the speed for the better performance. These are the mathematical equations. Okay, means how you are obtaining. This is the actual machine equation. This is your estimated equations. That's why you are having the epsilon, means the cap here. This is estimated value. This is actual flux value. If you see this one, psi RD, so yeah, estimated the same equations. This is basically for the motor, induction motor. Okay, this is epsilon, omega, and we will give to the adaptive mechanism. Where is adapt? Your adaptive mechanism is nothing but basically it is a PI controller. Either you can use a PI controller here. Your PI controller output will be your estimated speed. PI controller output will be your estimated speed. Means for better performance, what you will do is, for the better performance, what you will do is either you can go for PI controller, or what I will do is I will use FLC, fuzzy logic controller, neural network controller, and FIS controller. Okay, for that. Yes. Why you require the better performance is, even though means all these methods, whatever the speed control methods is having disadvantage. In the case of a rotor flux based observer, what I told is at high speeds we don't have any problem. Basically at low speeds. In the case of if you are comparing or in the contrast to your EV, basically if you are taking as a electric vehicle, either you are taking an induction motor as your drive or a permanent magnet synchronous motor as a drive. If there is any power failure, ultimately what happens is you have to go to your actual destination. Means why your sensorless method is very useful is, if there is any power failure, what happens is you have to drive safely to your home. Basically, if there is any power failure, you call it as a limp-in period. Limp-in period is there is any power failure in the system. What happens is ultimately you have to drive safely to your system. As there is a power failure in the system, what happens? You cannot have the control over the actual drive. You don't have the actual control over the drive. But your machine or your drive system or your automotive will run. But what is the speed there? The speed at which, means before failure as well as after failure, there is a tremendous decrease in the speed. Tremendous decrease in the speed. Ultimately, what you require, means we have to be safe to the home. At that situation, what means your speed will be low. When there is a lower speed, and ultimately you have to be safe, what happens is whatever the drive or whatever the motor you are operating, basically what happens is it will, means controlling is difficult during those periods. If you are using a model referensive adaptive system at the lower speed, what happens is ultimately if you are using a sensorless method, what you will do is you have to control the speed of the drive. Either it is a 10 RPM or a 1500 RPM. Controlling speed at the 1500 RPM during the means normal operation is very easy. But the same controlling the speed of a drive, a sensorless drive at the 10 RPM. 10 RPM is very difficult. Okay. What are the reasons for those difficulties? In the case of a voltage source in your rotor flux based MRS, you will have a integrator. What do your integrator you means? If you write this equation in other way, phi dr is equal to integral of it is P is d by dt. Means if we take this one to this side, it will be integral of Lr by Lm, VDS minus RS IDS. If it is a lower speeds, what happens is your supply is low. Once your supply is low, what happens is this is lower value. But as you are continuously operating, your resistance is having, what is your resistance? It is a positive temperature coefficient. Then what happens is after driving for more time, what happens? Your resistance inside your drive is increased. Once your resistance inside your drive is increased, this value will be high compared to earlier. Then what happens as this value is low and this is high, what happens? Ultimately, whatever the flux we are estimating, whatever the flux we are obtaining, this will be not an accurate value. Not an accurate value. Ultimately, we have to control the speed. We have to control the speed of a EV or a hybrid electric vehicle at the critical situations. Due to the presence of integration, what happens is your speed control, you will have a delay in the speed control. And next one is, as I already told you, your resistance as well as your inductances will increase as you are continuously operating. You can go to your lab and you run an induction motor or a permanent synchronous motor for 3 to 4 hours. Before starting, you touch your motor, and after starting or running for 5 hours, you touch your motor. You will feel a heat sense. Okay. Means a simple laboratory machine, if it is running for 5 hours, due to the positive temperature coefficient, there is a increase in the resistance value. If there is a increase in the resistance value, whatever the speed I am estimating, this will not be an accurate value. Got the point? Whatever the speed I am estimating, it will not be an accurate value. That's why what you will do is controlling, means you have to critically control during the critical situations. These are some of the limitations of your sensorless method. And the second one is, ultimately what you are doing is we are sensing the speed. One thing means we are not sensing the speed, we are eliminating the sensor. And second one is we are sensing the voltage and sensing the current. Means ultimately, basically what you have to do is you have to use VA, VB, VC, IA, IB, IC. Means for every current and voltage, I require 3 sensors. 3 means 6 sensors. This will add to your cost. Even though it is adding to the cost, what is again other thing is at the lower speeds, what happens, whatever the value sensed by your sensor, if there is any mismatch in the sensed value, ultimately it will reflect at the lower voltages. It is a very, means at higher speeds or higher voltages, it will not be a factor. But at low speeds and lower voltages, this will come into the pictures. That's why the poor performance of model reference to adaptive system at low speeds is, one is due to the presence of the integrator, second is the variation of your machine parameters, and start one it is acquisition of stator voltage and stator current. One thing is here compulsory you have to use 3 voltage, means 3 current sensors. Here what I am assuming it as a balanced supply, I'll take IB and IC plus IC is equal to 0. Then I will only use 2 sensors, IA plus IB is equal to IC. Then I am reducing 1 sensor here. And second one is in the case of a 2-level inverter, if you are using the 2-level inverter, then what I will do is I will use only single sensor, that is DC link voltage or DC link voltage sensor, DC voltage sensor, where with the help of the upper gate pulses 1, 3, 5, 4, 6, 2, what I will do is I will sense these gate pulses. From this I will obtain the values of VA, VB and VC. You will have the equations where you will sense only DC link voltage from the gate pulses. You will obtain the values of VA, VB and VC. Means ultimately what I am doing is, it is a conventional closed loop control. One is speed sensor is eliminated, 2 voltage sensors are eliminated, and 1 current sensor is eliminated. Means 6 sensor cost is we are reducing in the case of a sensorless speed control, where ultimately we are reducing the cost up to around 50,000 rupees. Okay. But you have to critically control the speed of the drive, how you are improving the performance of a drive. Basically, one thing is I am modifying the actual machine equations. Second one is I can use fuzzy logic controller, and second one is I can use a neural network controller. I am not discussing this, but I am only discussing the modifying the voltage model. What is your voltage model? I already told you voltage model is your actual machine model. It's almost all its time. Your voltage model is your actual machine model. What I am doing is, as already told you, at the lower speeds, what happens? Your voltage is very low. Once your voltage is low, what means how you are I am modifying is basically this is a equation. This is a simple equation. In this equation, I am adding a compensating voltage. In the simple sense, I will add this equation. Actually, this is same. All these things are same. What I am doing is, I am adding a compensating voltage, VCP. We call it as a compensating voltage. This is a combination of drift voltage as well as one is drift voltage and other one is offset voltage. Drift voltage and offset voltage is nothing but like a, basically if you see a tape recorder, what happens is you will have a two knobs. One is means, or you will take a what you call FM radio. What happens is we are changing the amplitudes or modulation. Then what happens is one will be, you will have the fine tuning one and second one will be a high tuning value. Same thing, I will add the two components. One is drift component and the offset component. Basically, in the case of a, means I already told you, due to the presence of integrator, what happens is there is a offset in the or the delay in the speed value. That's delay in the speed is added in terms of your voltage to the flux value. Okay, that is actually happening in this one. Means either basically you will have a d-axis component and q-axis component. What I will do, the same equation, machine equation, for the machine equations, I will add a d-axis compensating voltage and q-axis compensating voltage. That is a modified model referensive adaptive system. Same machine equations, but how you are obtaining the drift voltage? One is by using a controller, PI controller or Anfis controller, and second one is by using the same voltage. That for that voltage we are drawing the flux trajectory. From the flux trajectory we are obtaining the offset voltage. Okay, means we are injecting or we are adding a extra compensating voltage which is lost due to the false operation of the system. That is modified voltage model referential adaptive system, or modified reference model referential adaptive system. Okay, this is what we are doing to control the speed during the low speeds. At high speeds we don't have any problem, but at the low speeds, why we are controlling the speed is, one is in the case of a EV during the fault in the electrical power supply or in the fault in the system, and second one, if you see the what you call your elevators, and where sometimes what happens is, if you are not operating your elevator but your machine is already on, when you call it as a zero speed operation. You call it as a zero speed operation. If during that zero speeds, as it is continuously on, what happens is whatever the parameters we are discussing, that is your stator resistance, rotor resistance, as the motor is continuously, and this effect will be more. Okay, that's why we have to control the speed during the lower speeds or zero speeds. At higher speed, means as everything is fine, you don't have any problem. If you are going for the sensorless method and it is very low speed, controlling will be very difficult. Okay, this is during the what you call your speed at higher speeds. Torque, DTC, basically it is discussed by Ramesh sir. With this completed conclusions, one is basically means as we are discussing EVs, we are going for the permanent magnet synchronous motor controlling of means DTC, and basically we are comparing the DTC as well as your what you call your field oriented controller vector control. The disadvantage of whatever the vector control we are discussed is, one is your machine parameters, dependency on your machine parameters, and second one is there are different transformations, alpha beta to ABC, ABC to DQ. This will difficulty when we are controlling the what you call speed of the machine. And whereas in the direct, when we are going for the direct torque control, I have not discussed it, but basically in the case of a direct torque control, if it is a conventional one, means even though it is not having the coordinate transformations, even ultimately your flux estimation, you are having the flux estimation which is again dependent upon your parameters, and you'll have a variable switching frequency component where your torque ripples compared to your FOC here, you'll have a larger torque ripples. In order to reduce those torque ripples, what we are doing is we are going for SVM based. Whatever the SVM directly we are used in FOC, what we are integrating the FOC, sorry, your direct torque control and space vector modulation, right? This is end of the presentation. Any queries?
Some participants
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, in the type of electric motors you have mentioned about the under DC motor, you have mentioned about homopolar. What is that, sir? Actually, I have not heard about that.
1 minute.
So just in the classification of electric
Yeah.
motors slides, sir.
It was taken from somewhere. Yeah, no? This one you are talking about.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Exactly. I don't know. It was taken from somewhere.
Okay, okay, sir. We used to study Sun series combo.
Yeah, this actually this is
So it's like a new one. That's why I asked, sir.
Critically I don't know.
Okay, okay, sir. No issues.
Any doubts?
participants, any doubt?
Yes, sir. Sir, how to calculate the gains of gains in PI controllers, sir? We are using speed.
Yeah, you have to use different methods. Either you can go for Ziegler and Nicholas method, departition technique.
Yes, sir. But when I am trying to get through transfer function, sir,
Yeah.
I am getting difficulty in getting the transfer function of multi-level inverter, sir.
It is difficult. Basically, that is the main problem when we are going for these methods. Either it is a direct torque control or vector control. Means you have to go for the total, what you call, mathematical. That is, mathematical modeling is very important. You have to mathematically model all the parameters, in the sense your inverter, your machine, everything, and you have to find out that depending upon your requirement. If it is a speed control, you have to critically obtain the transfer function.
Yes,
From
sir.
the transfer function, you have to obtain the gain values, and whatever the gain values you are getting, they are not exactly accurate. Again, somehow you have to you will get the broader values, and from the broader values, by changing those values, if you are either using Ziegler-Nicholas method, means you don't have to use the total, what you call, your approximation method or trailer and error method, but somewhere you'll get the broader, a fine-tuned value. From the fine-tuned value, again you have to go for your trailer and error, and you have to get the actual PI value.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any further questions?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes,
sir, when you compare electric vehicle with IC engines,
yeah,
you are not consider the torque aspects. What about the torque, starting torque, or the torque produced by this IC engine and the torque produced by electric motor? Can we compare? Is it I mean, can we get the same torque produced by IC engine with the help of motor?
No, both will not be exactly same.
For example, when this electric vehicle is running up the slope, it finds difficult to climb that slope compared to IC engine. So, and that is the area where initially when electric vehicles came, they failed. And then the development in the area of motors, wherein we can get large torque, and then the concept of electric vehicles has again come into picture.
Yeah, hybrid vehicles. That's what.
Because we had a Reva cars, which could be used only on the plain road, in the city areas, and they will not be able. I mean, they could not climb these slopes as such. Is there any scope to work for researchers in the field of batteries for these electric vehicles?
Batteries again, that's what batteries is again a separate area of research. Basically, means with these basically with your renewable energy sources, the usage of batteries, and with the help of your hybrid electric vehicles, the usage of batteries means introduced more, because again it is a separate area. Means ultimately, if it is these batteries are a separate area, but if you are going for a EV, here the difficulty is a state of charge. I'm having a vehicle and I don't know exactly what is the charge status of my charge. That will be your what you call area what you are thinking. Means finding means if you want to work on that, you have to work according to your state of charge. If you know that state of charge, I can know how many kilometers I can travel.
Yes. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, with this, we'll close this session.